In South Los Angeles, power didn't wear badges. It wore silence. And the man who owned the silence was Kang Dae-yun. No one knew exactly how many crimes he'd committed. They only knew things stopped happening when he wanted them to. Deals fell apart. Witnesses changed their minds. People disappeared from neighborhoods and were never spoken of again. Dae-yun believed fear was the purest currency in America. Until a 7-year-old boy refused to pay. It happened outside a corner store near Crenshaw Boulevard. Late afternoon. Traffic crawling. Sirens echoing somewhere distant. An elderly woman stood at the register, counting coins with shaking hands. Arthritis made every movement slow. The line behind her stretched long. People shifted, checked phones, sighed. Dae-yun walked in, guards flanking him like shadows. The cashier's face drained of color. "Sir." Dae-yun didn't acknowledge him. Walked straight to the counter. Placed a single bottle of water down. Cut directly in front of the elderly woman. She looked up, startled, stepped back instinctively. Everyone in line looked away. Eyes on phones, on shoes, anywhere but forward, except one. "Excuse me." The voice came from knee height. Dae-yun turned slowly. A boy, 7, maybe 8. Dark skin, sharp eyes, backpack hanging low, sneakers worn completely through at the toes. Standing directly beside the elderly woman. "She was here first," the boy said. Not loud, matter of fact, like explaining basic math. The guards moved instantly, hands inside jackets. Dae-yun raised a single finger. They froze. The boy didn't even glance at the guards. Eyes locked on Dae-yun. "You saw her counting," the boy continued. "You knew she was first. You just didn't care." The store went completely silent. Even the hum of the refrigerators seemed to stop. Dae-yun stared down at this child. This kid with shoes held together by duct tape and a coat 2 sizes too small. "Do you know who I am?" Dae-yun asked quietly. "No." "Then you should. I know what you are, though." The boy's voice stayed level. Calm. Clinical. "You're the kind of person who makes people smaller so you feel bigger." Someone in line gasped. The boy turned to the elderly woman. "Ma'am, you can finish." "He can wait." The woman's hands shook worse now. She looked at Dae-yun. Terrified. Every person in that store held their breath. Dae-yun could end this child with a word. Everyone knew it. The guards. The cashier. The people in line. Everyone except the boy, who just stood there, waiting, like Dae-yun was the one being tested. When was the last time a child showed you something you'd rather ignore? Leave a comment and subscribe to Tales by Wave for more stories where the smallest voices cut the deepest. The seconds stretched. Then Dae-yun did something he hadn't done in 20 years. He stepped back. "Finish your transaction," he told the woman. The woman blinked, looked between them, then quickly, hands shaking, placed her coins on the counter. The cashier rang her up like he was defusing a bomb. The boy watched Dae-yun the entire time. Not with triumph, not with fear, with something worse, disappointment, like Dae-yun had confirmed exactly what he'd suspected. When the woman took her bag and shuffled toward the door, the boy turned to follow her. "Wait," Dae-yun said. The boy stopped. Didn't turn around. "What's your name?" Pause. Then, "Why?" "Because no one speaks to me like that." "Maybe they should." The boy walked out, small shoulders squared, head high, leading the elderly woman to the bus stop outside. The guards looked at their boss. Waiting, weapons ready. Dae-yun stood frozen. A child, this kid with nothing, had just humiliated him in front of a dozen witnesses. Not with violence, not with threats, with simple, devastating truth. You make people smaller so you feel bigger. His hand tightened on the water bottle. Plastic cracking. Then he set it down. Walked out. Didn't pay. The cashier didn't dare ask. That night, Dae-yun sat in his office. Lights off. City sprawling below. He kept replaying it. The boy's face. Those eyes. Not afraid. Not impressed. Just disappointed. Like Dae-yun was something broken the boy had hoped might be whole. In 20 years of ruling through fear, no one had ever made him feel small. Until today. Until a child in shoes held together with tape looked at him and saw exactly what he was. Dae-yun pressed the intercom. "Min Jae. My office. Now." Min Jae Park arrived within minutes. His most trusted lieutenant. The only man who'd survived 20 years at Dae-yun's side. "Find a boy," Dae-yun said. Voice tight. Controlled. 7 or 8 years old. Crenshaw area. Likely walks to school. Worn out shoes, too small coat. Min Jae's eyes narrowed slightly. What did he do? He spoke to me like I was ordinary. Min Jae waited. That wasn't enough information to warrant this tone. Dae-yeon's jaw tightened. And I let him. Now Min Jae understood. This wasn't about revenge. This was about something worse. Curiosity. How deep do you want me to go? Everything. Where he lives. Who raised him. Where he learned to speak like that. Min Jae nodded and left. Dae-yeon turned back to the window. Most people who challenged him ended up regretting it. But this child didn't seem to understand consequences. Or maybe, and this thought disturbed him more, maybe the boy understood perfectly. Maybe he just didn't care. Because what could Dae-yeon possibly take from a child who already had nothing? That kind of fearlessness was dangerous. Not to his empire. To the lie he'd built his entire life around. That power made you untouchable. That fear made you strong. A 7-year-old just proved both wrong in under 60 seconds. Somewhere in South Los Angeles, in a small room behind a building the boy didn't know the name of, Micah sat at a table. Homework spread out. Pencil moving. A woman stood in the doorway. Watching him, she noticed everything. The way he held his pencil. The concentration in his eyes. The worn backpack on the floor. How was your day? She asked softly. Fine. Anything happen? Micah hesitated. Just for a second. Helped an old lady at the store. The woman smiled. Tired but genuine. That's my boy. She didn't ask for details. Didn't need to. She'd taught him to stand up for what was right. She just didn't know yet that he'd stood up to the one man she'd spent 7 years staying invisible from. Didn't know her son had just painted a target on both of them. Didn't know everything was about to change. Min Jae found the boy in 18 hours. Not because the child was careless. Because Min Jae was thorough. School records, neighborhood canvassing, security footage from 3 different intersections. The digital trail of a 7-year-old with no reason to hide. Until Min Jae traced the walking route home. And stopped. Dae-yeon sat at his desk when Min Jae entered. Dawn light cutting through the windows. Neither man had slept. The boy, Min Jae said carefully. Micah Johnson. Dae-yeon looked up. He lives close. How close? Min Jae's jaw tightened. Here, sir. Silence. Dae-yeon stood slowly. Explain. Servants' quarters. Behind the estate. The words landed like stones. Dae-yeon's estate sprawled across 3 acres. Main house. Garages. Security buildings. And tucked behind everything, a row of small units where staff lived. People who cleaned his floors. Cooked his meals. Maintained his world. People he never looked at twice. Which employee? Dae-yeon's voice stayed level. Controlled. Min Jae hesitated. That single pause told Dae-yeon everything he needed to know. Say it. Your maid, sir. The room seemed to tilt. Which one? The quiet one. Morning shift. 7 years. Dae-yeon's hand tightened on the desk edge. 7 years. He'd walked past this woman thousands of times. Barked orders without looking up. Treated her presence like furniture that moved when convenient. And she'd raised that child. The boy who looked at him with disappointment instead of fear. The boy who made him feel ordinary. Pull her file, Dae-yeon said quietly. Everything. Min Jae nodded. Disappeared. Dae-yeon walked to the window. Stared at the servants' quarters in the distance. Small buildings. Cracked paint. Narrow windows. How did someone living there raise someone like that? A child with more dignity than men who commanded armies. More courage than men who'd killed without hesitation. What kind of woman could do that while staying invisible? 20 minutes later, Min Jae returned. Manila folder in hand. Single mother. Former nursing student. Top of her class, full scholarship. Disappeared from the system 7 years ago. Dae-yeon took the file. Opened it. Black and white photo. Employee ID. Eyes down. Expression neutral. She looked unremarkable. Exactly how she'd intended. Father? Dae-yeon asked. Unknown. No records. Boy's birth certificate lists mother only. Dae-yeon flipped through pages. Employment history. Performance reviews. All identical. Satisfactory. Quiet. Reliable. Words that meant invisible. He'd signed these reviews himself. Never read them. Why did she leave nursing school? Min Jae shifted. Timing suggests pregnancy. Scholarship required full-time enrollment. Single mothers don't qualify. So she'd lost everything. Career, future. Became a maid to survive. Dae-yeon closed the file. Set up surveillance. Internal cameras only. I want to see how she moves through this house. Sir. Do it. Min Jae left. Dae-yeon opened the file again. Stared at the photo. She'd been here 7 years. Cleaned his office. His bedroom. Walked past him in hallways. And he'd never once wondered who she was. That afternoon, Dae-yeon watched security footage. Hallway cameras. Kitchen cameras. Footage from the past week. And there she was. Moving through frames like a ghost. Eyes down. Shoulders rounded. Making herself small. Every time he entered a room, she found a reason to leave. Every time he spoke near her, she became smaller. He'd thought it was respect. Now he saw it for what it was. Survival. She'd been protecting herself. Protecting her son. Staying invisible in plain sight. For 7 years. And it had worked. Until her son refused to be invisible anymore. Dae-yeon leaned back. Jaw tight. The boy hadn't been reckless yesterday. He'd been brave in a way his mother couldn't afford to be. And now Dae-yeon couldn't stop watching her. Not with desire. With something more dangerous. Curiosity. Who was this woman who taught a child to see power clearly while she hid from it completely? Micah's teacher noticed it during quiet reading time. The boy wasn't reading. He was drawing. Maps. Not the kind children made with crayons and imagination. Detailed layouts. Building entrances. Exit routes. Blind spots where cameras couldn't see. Micah? Mrs. Chen leaned over his desk. What's this? Micah covered the page quickly. Nothing. It looks like. Just doodling. He wasn't lying exactly. He was drawing. He just wasn't doodling. Mrs. Chen let it go. But her eyes followed him the rest of the day. After school, Micah walked home alone. Same route every day. Past the convenience store where it happened. Past the bus stop where he'd helped the elderly woman. Past the tall iron gates he didn't know led to where his mama worked. He counted steps without thinking. Memorized which houses had dogs. Which alleys had exits. Which corners had clear sightlines. Not because anyone taught him. Because knowing things kept you safe. And Micah had learned early that safe was something you built yourself. He reached the servants' quarters as the sun dropped low. Small buildings with peeling paint. Narrow windows. Cracked concrete walkways. Home. His mother stood at the stove. Back straight. Movements careful. She always moved like that. Like taking up less space would keep her safer. How was school? She asked without turning. Fine. Learn anything new? Micah set his backpack down. Mrs. Chen asked about my drawings. His mother's shoulders tensed. Just slightly. What did you tell her? That I was doodling. She turned then. Studied his face. She had a way of looking at him that saw everything. Micah, what happened yesterday? The truth. He'd known this was coming. I saw that man again. The one from the store. Her face went completely still. Where? Just around. Micah. He was being mean to an old lady. Cutting in line. Everyone was scared. She crossed the small room. Knelt in front of him. Took his face in her hands. Listen to me very carefully. If you ever see that man again, you walk away. Immediately. You don't speak to him. You don't look at him. You disappear. Ever had to tell your child to hide from danger you couldn't explain? Comment below. Some truths are too heavy for children. Why? Because men like him don't forget when children challenge them. Micah pulled back slightly. But you always say, I know what I say. This is different. How? She closed her eyes. Opened them again. Because that man controls whether we eat. Whether we have a roof. Whether we're safe. Micah's eyes widened. He's your boss? She didn't answer. Didn't need to. You work for him? Micah. Where? She gestured vaguely toward the main estate. The massive house visible through their window. The one Micah had walked past 1,000 times without really seeing. There. Everything clicked into place. The sudden tension when he mentioned the store. The fear in her eyes. The way she moved through the world like she was trying not to be noticed. She'd been hiding. From him. And Micah had just walked up and challenged the one man she'd spent 7 years staying invisible from. Mama. It's okay. Her voice cracked. We'll be okay. Just, stay away from him. Please. Micah nodded slowly. But his mind was already working. Already calculating. Because if that man was her boss, and her boss was cruel, then staying invisible hadn't protected her. It had just made her easier to ignore. That night, after Micah fell asleep, she counted money hidden inside a book. $347. 7 years of saving. Still not enough to leave. She looked at her son. Small body curled under worn blankets. He'd challenged the most dangerous man in South LA without knowing who he was. And now that man knew he existed. She pressed her hand to her mouth. Tried not to cry. The next morning, she went to work. Same routine. Same silence. Eyes down. Shoulders rounded. But this time, as she cleaned the hallway outside his office, Dae-Yun stepped out. And stopped. And looked at her. Really looked. For the first time in 7 years. She kept her eyes down. Kept moving. But her hands shook. And he saw it. Her name was Naomi Johnson. She'd been invisible for 7 years. Her son had just made that impossible. And Kang Dae-Yun couldn't stop watching. Naomi noticed the changes immediately. Her shift schedule suddenly shorter. 4 hours instead of 8. Same pay. The broken lock on her quarters door? Fixed overnight. No explanation. The guard who used to block the shortcut to the main house. Gone. Small things. Dangerous things. Because in her world, unexplained kindness was just cruelty waiting to reveal itself. Dae-Yun told himself he was correcting oversights. The maid, Naomi, had been overworked. Her living conditions substandard. Simple fixes. Nothing personal. Min-jae knew better. You're treating her differently, Min-jae said carefully one morning. I'm treating her correctly. The other staff are noticing. Let them. Min-jae studied his boss. 20 years of reading silences. This one was new. Not anger. Not desire. Fascination. Sir. She raised that boy while living here. While I walked past her every day like she didn't exist. How does someone do that? Min-jae had no answer. Dae-Yun didn't expect one. It happened on a Tuesday. Naomi was cleaning Dae-Yun's office. He wasn't supposed to be there. She'd checked his schedule, but he walked in anyway. She froze. Spray bottle in hand. Caught. Don't stop, he said. She hesitated, then continued wiping the desk. Eyes down. Movement sufficient. Dae-Yun watched from the doorway. Your son, he said finally. Where did he learn to speak like that? Her hand stilled. Just for a second. I taught him right from wrong, sir. First time he'd heard her voice beyond, yes, sir, and, no, sir. Quiet. Steady. Not submissive. Controlled. You taught him to challenge authority? She kept cleaning. I taught him to recognize when authority is wrong. The words landed like a slap. Dae-Yun stepped into the room. You think I'm wrong? I think power makes people forget they're supposed to be right. She said it while scrubbing his desk. Without looking up. Without fear. Dae-Yun stared at her. 7 years. She'd been judging him silently for 7 years. Every order he'd barked. Every time he'd ignored her. Every moment of casual cruelty. She'd been watching, noting, teaching her son that this, him, was what not to become. You've been here 7 years, he said. Yes, sir. Why? Because I have a son to feed. And if you didn't? She finally looked up, met his eyes for the first time. I'd have left the day I arrived. Then she picked up her supplies and walked out. Dae-Yun stood alone in his office. A woman who had nothing had just told him exactly what she thought of him. And he couldn't stop thinking about it. That afternoon, Micah appeared near the main house. Watching, waiting. Dae-Yun stepped onto the terrace. Saw the boy standing 50 feet away. Backpack on. Hands in pockets. They stared at each other. Micah spoke first. Why are you nicer to my mama now? Dae-Yun froze. I'm not. You are. She gets home earlier. You stopped yelling near her. The boy tracked everything. Are you trying to make her like you? Micah asked. Dae-Yun had no answer. Micah nodded slowly, like Dae-Yun had just confirmed something. It won't work. She sees people, not power. And you're still the same person who cut in front of that old lady. Then he walked away. Dae-Yun returned to his office. Sat in silence. A 7-year-old just told him the truth. He couldn't buy respect. Couldn't command it. Couldn't force it. He'd have to earn it. And he had no idea how. The restaurant wasn't fancy. Just a neighborhood spot where working people could afford a meal once in a while. Naomi sat across from Micah in a booth near the back. Her one night off this month. His reward for straight A's. She'd saved for 6 weeks for this. Micah studied the menu like he was memorizing evidence. Calculating what cost least. What would leave her with more. Get what you want, she said softly. I want the chicken tenders. She knew what he really wanted. The steak. But he'd never say it. Micah, I like chicken tenders, Mama. She didn't argue. Some battles you couldn't win. The waiter approached. Young. Nervous. Carrying a tray of waters. He stumbled. Water splashed across the floor. Glass shattered. The tray clattered against tile. The restaurant went quiet. The manager rushed over. Face red. Voice sharp. What did you do? I'm sorry, that's the 3rd time this week. You're done. Clock out. The waiter's face crumbled. Please, I said clock out. Micah's head turned sharply. Toward the VIP section. Where Kang Dae-yeon sat with 2 men in expensive suits. He'd seen everything. Naomi's breath stopped. No, not here, not now. Micah watched Dae-yeon, waiting, testing, to see what he'd do. Dae-yeon set down his glass. Stood, walked toward the manager and waiter. Every eye in the restaurant followed. The waiter stays, Dae-yeon said quietly. The manager turned, face draining of color. Mr. Kang, I didn't see you. Accidents happen. Leave him alone. But sir, the policy. Dae-yeon looked at him. Just looked. The manager stepped back. Of course. My apologies. Dae-yeon turned to the waiter. Clean it up. Take your time. Then he walked back to his table. Sat down. Resumed his conversation like nothing happened. Didn't look for applause. Didn't check who noticed. Just did it. Micah watched until Dae-yeon disappeared from view. Then turned back to his menu. Naomi's hands shook around her water glass. That's him, she whispered. Isn't it? Micah nodded. You knew he was here. Another nod. Micah. He did the right thing, Mama. Her throat tightened. Once. That doesn't erase everything else. But it's a start. Those words terrified her more than anything. Because Micah was starting to see good in him. And hope was more dangerous than fear. If Micah trusted him, and Dae-yeon reverted, it would destroy her son. She had to protect Micah from belief itself. 3 blocks away, in a car Naomi never saw, a man took photos through a telephoto lens. The boss, the maid, the boy, all in the same restaurant. He sent the images to a burner phone. Message received 2 minutes later, weakness confirmed. Hit them both. Make him watch. Later that night, Dae-yeon received a message on his secure line. No words. Just an image. Naomi and Micah leaving the restaurant. Red crosshairs drawn over their faces. His blood went cold. They'd been watching him, seen his changes, noticed his attention. And now his enemies knew exactly how to hurt him. By taking the 2 people who'd made him feel human. Min Jae entered the office 30 seconds later. Sir, we have a problem. I know. Orders? Dae-yeon stared at the photo. Naomi's hand on Micah's shoulder. Both of them smiling. A rare moment of peace. He'd done this. His attention had marked them. Now he had 2 choices. Let them go. Disappear them before his enemies could strike. Or keep them close. Use his power to protect them. Both options trapped them in his world. Both put them in danger. Increase security on the servants' quarters, Dae-yeon said finally. Tell her it's routine maintenance. Don't let her know why. And if they attack anyway? Dae-yeon's jaw tightened. Then we remind them why people fear me in the first place. Naomi's second job was a secret. 4 nights a week, after Micah fell asleep, she walked 3 blocks to a bar. Cleaned tables, mopped floors, collected tips left by men too drunk to count. An extra $60 a week. Closer to enough. Closer to leaving. She didn't tell anyone. Not Micah. Not the other staff. Especially not her employer. What Dae-yeon didn't know couldn't control her. It was nearly midnight when she finished. Alley behind the bar. Shortest route home. She heard footsteps behind her. Didn't turn. Walked faster. The footsteps matched her pace. Hey. She kept walking. I'm talking to you. A hand grabbed her arm. She spun. Faced him. Drunk customer from inside. Cologne and whiskey. Eyes unfocused but intent clear. Let go. You smiled at me earlier. I was working. So work now. His grip tightened. Pulled her closer. Naomi's free hand found the pepper spray in her pocket. But before she could use it. Step back. The voice came from the alley entrance. 2 men. Dark suits. Faces she recognized from the estate. Dae-Yun's guards. The drunk's hand dropped immediately. He stumbled backward, ran. The guards didn't chase him. Just stood there, waiting. Naomi's heart hammered. She looked past them, to where Dae-Yun stood in the shadows. He stepped forward, into the streetlight. "Are you hurt?" he asked. She didn't answer, brushed off her coat, steadied her breathing. "I asked if you're hurt." "I heard you." They stared at each other, neither moving. Finally, Naomi spoke. "You didn't save me." Dae-Yun frowned. "What? You corrected a wrong you let exist." "I don't. This is your territory. Your protection money keeps that bar open. Your system allowed this." Dae-Yun's jaw tightened. "I stopped it." "You stopped one man. Tonight. What about tomorrow? What about every other woman who walks home alone because men like you make the world unsafe?" "I'm not. Stopping harm doesn't make you good. It means you chose not to be worse tonight." The words hit like fists. Dae-Yun had expected gratitude, relief, maybe even warmth, not accountability. "I could have let it happen," he said quietly. "Then you'd be worse than I already think you are." She picked up her bag, started walking. "Wait." She stopped, didn't turn. "Why do you work 2 jobs?" "Because one job working for you isn't enough to leave you." Then she walked away. Dae-Yun stood in the alley. Guards waiting for orders. He had none. She'd just taken his moment of protection and turned it into proof of his failure. And she was right. 50 feet away, hidden behind a dumpster, Micah watched everything. He'd followed his mother, seen the man grab her, seen the guards appear, seen Dae-Yun. When Naomi disappeared around the corner, Micah stepped out, walked straight toward Dae-Yun. The guards tensed. Dae-Yun raised his hand. They stopped. Micah stopped 3 feet away, studied Dae-Yun's face in the streetlight. "Did you hurt her?" "No." "Did you stop someone else?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because it was right." Micah considered this. "Then, if you ever hurt her, I'll remember. Forever. Not just what you did, but that I gave you a chance and you wasted it." Dae-Yun knelt, met the boy's eyes at level. "Understood." Micah nodded once, then ran after his mother. Dae-Yun stood slowly. Min-jae approached. "Sir?" "She works a second job." "I know. You knew and didn't tell me?" "You never asked about her life. Only her schedule." Dae-Yun turned to him. "She's trying to save enough to leave." "Yes, sir." "How long would it take her?" Min-jae hesitated. "At her current rate? 4 years. Maybe 5. 4 years of late nights. Of danger. Of exhaustion. Because working for him wasn't enough to escape him." "Double her salary," Dae-Yun said. "Backdated 6 months, sir. And find out every bar, restaurant, store in a 10-block radius. I want them protected. Real security. Not the kind that looks away. That's expensive." "Then it's expensive." Min-jae nodded. Left. Dae-Yun stared at the empty alley. She'd refused his help, refused his protection, told him the truth when lies would have been safer. And all he could think was, no one had ever treated him like he was capable of better. Until her. The leak came from inside. Someone close. Someone trusted. Min-jae found it buried in encrypted messages. Surveillance routes. Guard rotations. Naomi's work schedule. Micah's school dismissal time. Everything an enemy would need. Sent from a phone registered to one of Dae-Yun's own men. "How long?" Dae-Yun asked. 3 weeks. Maybe more. "Who?" Min-jae placed the file on the desk. "Lieutenant Kim. 15 years of service." Dae-Yun's jaw tightened. Kim had stood beside him through wars. Through betrayals. Through blood. Why? His daughter. Stage 4. Experimental treatment in Germany. $2 million. Silence. "He didn't ask," Min-jae continued. "Someone offered. He took it." Dae-Yun stared at Kim's photo. Good man. Loyal man. Until loyalty cost less than his child's life. Bring him in. But before Min-jae could move, Naomi appeared in the doorway. She never came to his office. "We need to talk," she said. "No, sir." No deference. Dae-Yun dismissed Min-jae with a look. When they were alone, Naomi closed the door. Micah heard guards talking. "Someone's planning something. Something about us." Dae-Yun's blood went cold. When? He doesn't know. But he knows it's soon. How does he? Because he pays attention. Children see what adults ignore. She stepped closer. First time she'd approached him willingly. "Is it true? Are we in danger because of you?" Dae-yeon could lie, should lie, but Micah had taught him something. Truth, even when it destroyed you. Yes. Her face didn't change, like she'd already known. Then fix it. I'm trying. No. You're trying to protect us while keeping your power. That's not fixing it. That's managing it. Dae-yeon stood. What do you want me to do? I don't know. But I know staying invisible didn't work. Running won't work. So maybe, she hesitated. Maybe we help you find who's doing this before they do it. Absolutely not. Micah already identified 3 guards acting strange. I can move through this house without anyone noticing. We're already targets. Let us help. You're asking me to put you in more danger. I'm asking you to let us fight instead of just survive. The words hung between them. She wasn't asking for protection. She was demanding partnership. 20 minutes later, Micah stood in Dae-yeon's office. Maps spread across the desk. Guard schedules. Surveillance logs. You heard guards talking, Dae-yeon said. Which ones? Micah didn't name them. Instead, the one who checks his phone after you leave rooms. The one whose kid suddenly has new shoes. The one who stands too close to exits. Dae-yeon exchanged a look with Min Jae. The boy had just described Lieutenant Kim, Sergeant Park, and Guard Chen. 3 men. 3 different patterns. How did you know? Because people who are scared act different than people who are guilty. Scared people freeze. Guilty people prepare. 7 years old. And he'd just profiled half the security team. Min Jae pulled up files. Cross-referenced financial records. Kim's daughter. Park's gambling debt. Chen's brother's medical bills. 3 men. 3 vulnerabilities. 3 offers they couldn't refuse. They're not working together, Micah said. They don't know about each other. How can you tell? Because they're all watching different people. If they were a team, they'd coordinate. Dae-yeon stared at this child. This boy who'd challenged him in a store. Who'd just dismantled his security in 10 minutes using nothing but attention. What do we do? Naomi asked. Dae-yeon looked at her. At Micah. At Min Jae. His world was crumbling. His men were compromised. His enemies were closing in. And the only people he could trust were a maid and her 7-year-old son. We have 24 hours before they move, Dae-yeon said. Maybe less. He turned to Naomi. I can protect you here. Or I can help you disappear. But if you stay, this gets worse before it gets better. Naomi looked at Micah. He nodded. She turned back. We stay. But after this is done, you let us go. New names. New city. No finding us. And if I refuse? Then we're already gone. The attack came at dawn. Not on the estate. On the servants' quarters. Smarter. Easier. Less defended. Naomi woke to the smell of smoke. She grabbed Micah. Ran barefoot into the courtyard. Other staff stumbling out. Confused. Terrified. 3 buildings on fire. Exits blocked. This wasn't random. This was a message. Guards arrived within seconds. Put out flames. Secured perimeter. But the damage was done. Not to buildings. To the illusion of safety. Dae-yeon stood in the wreckage an hour later. Naomi beside him. Micah silent between them. This was meant for you, Dae-yeon said quietly. I know. You need to leave. Today. I'll arrange. No. He turned. What? You think running will stop this? They'll just follow. Or find someone else to hurt to get to you. Then what do you want? I want the truth. All of it. Dae-yeon's jaw tightened. About what? About who you really are. What you've done. Why people want us dead just because you looked at us twice. Naomi, if I'm going to trust you with my son's life, I need to know what I'm trusting. Dae-yeon looked at Micah. The boy watched him with those steady eyes. Testing. Always testing. Okay, Dae-yeon said. But not here. His office. Door locked. Just the 3 of them. Dae-yeon told them everything. Not in broad strokes. In details. The organization his father built. The empire Dae-yeon inherited at 19 when his father was killed. The first man he killed. Self-defense that became expectation. 20 years of decisions, each one making the next easier. Protection rackets. Territory wars. People who disappeared when they became problems. He didn't soften it, didn't justify it, just laid it out like evidence. When he finished, the room stayed silent. Micah spoke first. Do you want to be different? Or do you just want us to think you are? The question cut deeper than any accusation. Dae-yeon met the boy's eyes. I don't know. I thought I did. But your mother's right, I've been trying to protect you while keeping my power. That's not change, that's just better management. So what now? Naomi asked. I dismantle it, all of it, quietly, carefully, and when it's done, you disappear. Clean, safe, free. How long? Weeks, maybe months. And in the meantime, you stay here, with me, where I can keep you safe. Naomi shook her head. That's the same prison with better furniture. Then what do you want? She stood, walked to the window, looked at the burned buildings. I want you to prove it. Not with words, with choices. How? She turned. The men who did this. The ones who sent them. You find them, and instead of killing them, you turn them over to the people they've hurt. Let justice happen without you. Dae-Yun's hands tightened. That's not how this world works. Then change the world. I can't. You can. You just don't want to lose what you've built. Silence. She was right. He wanted to be better. But not if it cost him everything. And that was exactly the problem. That night, Min Jae brought evidence. Financial trails, communication logs, the men who ordered the fire. Not external enemies, internal rivals, people within Dae-Yun's own organization who saw his changes as weakness. Who wanted him gone, and were willing to kill a woman and child to prove he'd gone soft. Orders? Min Jae asked. Dae-Yun looked at the files. At the names of men he'd worked with for years. One command. They'd be dead by morning. Clean, simple, expected. But Naomi's words echoed. Prove it, with choices. Gather evidence, Dae-Yun said. Everything. Financial records, recordings, proof of every crime. Sir, we're not killing them. We're exposing them. To the FBI. To their families. To everyone they've ever controlled. Min Jae stared. That puts you at risk too. I know. They'll retaliate. Let them. Sir, I'm done building power on fear. If I go down different than I came up. Min Jae nodded slowly. Left. Dae-Yun sat alone. He'd just signed his own death warrant. But for the first time in 20 years, the decision felt right. Naomi found him an hour later. Standing at his window. City lights below. I heard what you told Min Jae. Then you know what it means. That you're serious. Or suicidal. Maybe both. She stood beside him. Close. Not touching. Micah asked me something tonight, she said quietly. What? If I thought you could really change. What did you say? I said I don't know. But I think you're trying. And trying matters. Dae-Yun turned. Looked at her. Really looked. Not the maid. Not the mother. Not the woman who challenged him. Just her. I don't deserve you, he said. No, you don't. But maybe that's not the point. The FBI came at midnight. Not to arrest. To negotiate. Special Agent Morrison sat across from Dae-Yun. Evidence spread between them. 20 years of crimes documented. Organized. Gift-wrapped. Why now? Morrison asked. Because I'm trying to be different. That's not an answer. Dae-Yun looked at him. It's the only one I have. Morrison studied the files. Names. Dates. Accounts. Enough to dismantle 3 organizations. Including Dae-Yun's own. You're giving us everything. Yes. You'll have no protection. No allies. You'll be a target. I know. Then why? Dae-Yun thought of Micah's eyes. Naomi's question. Do you want to be different? Because a 7-year-old boy thinks I can be better. And I'd rather die proving him right than live proving him wrong. Morrison closed the file. We'll need testimony. Full cooperation. Witness protection after. No protection. Just let me finish what I started. That's suicide. That's the point. 3 days later, the arrests began. Not Dae-Yun's enemies. His own people. Lieutenant Kim. Sergeant Park. Guard Chen. 18 others. All taken quietly. Evidence airtight. The organization fractured overnight. Some fled. Some fought. Some surrendered. But Dae-Yun didn't run. He stayed. Dismantled his empire piece by piece. Transferred accounts. Dissolved roots. Burned his own kingdom to the ground. And through it all, Naomi and Micah stayed. Not because they were trapped. Because they chose to. The final confrontation came on a Tuesday. 5 men. Former allies. Guns drawn. They found Dae-Yun in the estate courtyard. Naomi and Micah 50 feet away. Close enough to see. Too far to help. The leader stepped forward. Man named Choi. 20 years of loyalty. Now rage. You destroyed us. I destroyed what we built wrong. For what? A woman? A kid? For the chance to be something other than what my father made me. Choi raised his weapon. Then die as something else. Micah moved before anyone could stop him. Walked straight toward the guns. Micah, no, Naomi screamed. But the boy didn't stop. Walked until he stood between Dae-yun and the weapons. 7 years old, 30 pounds, nothing but courage. If you shoot him, Micah said calmly, you prove he was right to leave you. That you're exactly what he said, men who only know violence. Choi stared at this child. This kid who'd walked into gunfire like it was recess. Move. No. I'll shoot through you. Then do it. But you'll have to live with killing a kid. And everyone will know you're not just a criminal. You're a monster. The words hung in the air. Choi's hand shook. Not from fear. From recognition. The boy was right. Killing a child would end him in ways bullets never could. Min Jae's voice cut through the tension. FBI is 2 minutes out. Choi looked at Dae-yun. Then at Micah. Then at his men. This isn't over. Yes, Dae-yun said. It is. Choi lowered his weapon. Walked away. His men followed. The moment they disappeared, Naomi ran. Grabbed Micah. Held him so tight he couldn't breathe. Don't you ever, don't you, she couldn't finish. Just held him. Dae-yun knelt beside them. That was the bravest and stupidest thing I've ever seen, he said quietly. Micah looked at him. You did it first. At the store. I just learned from you. Something in Dae-yun's chest cracked open. This boy, this child he'd met 3 weeks ago, had just risked his life. For him. Thank you, Dae-yun whispered. Micah nodded. Then, are you still a bad man? I'm trying not to be. That's better than pretending you never were. That night, Dae-yun handed Naomi an envelope. Inside, new identities, new city, new accounts, everything she needed to disappear. It's done, he said. The organization is gone. The FBI has everything. You're free. Naomi stared at the papers. 7 years of saving, 3 weeks of chaos, and now, freedom. But it felt wrong. What about you? I stay. Clean up what's left. Testify when they need me. And after? I don't know. Maybe prison. Maybe witness protection. Maybe I just disappear too. Alone. Yes. Naomi looked at Micah, asleep on the couch, exhausted from bravery. He'll ask about you. Tell him I kept my promise. That I let you go. Is that what you want? Dae-yun met her eyes. What I want doesn't matter. You deserve a life without men like me in it. She folded the papers, put them in her pocket. We leave in 3 days. Why wait? Because Micah will want to say goodbye. And she stopped. Started again. I want to be sure. Of what? That you mean it. That this isn't just a moment. That you'll still be trying to be better when we're gone. 5 years later. Small coastal town, Oregon. Population 3,000. Naomi taught nursing at the community college. Returned to what she'd lost. Rebuilt what had been taken. Micah was 12 now. Top of his class. Still sharp. Still observant. But he laughed more. Ran with friends. Played basketball. Drew maps for fun instead of survival. They'd made it. New names. New life. New peace. Everything Dae-yun had promised. Saturday morning. Naomi sat in a coffee shop. Grading papers. Steam rising from her cup. Someone sat across from her. She looked up. Froze. Dae-yun. Older. Different. No expensive suit. No guards. Just jeans and a worn jacket. Just a man. How did you find us? Her voice barely steady. I didn't. I moved here 2 years ago. Hoped. She set down her pen. Studied his face. Searching for the man she'd known. Found someone else instead. Why here? Min Jae told me the state before he died. I picked a small town. Waited. For what? To be sure I'd changed before I tried to see you. Silence stretched between them. What do you do now? She asked finally. Construction. Framing houses. It's honest work. And the organization? Gone. Testified against everyone left. Some are in prison. Most scattered. And you? I'm just, he paused. Trying. Every day. To be someone your son wouldn't be disappointed in. The bell above the door chimed. Micah walked in. Saw them. Stopped. Recognition flickered across his face. He walked over slowly. Studied Dae-yun the way he'd studied him 5 years ago. You look different, Micah said. I am different. Prove it. Dae-yun reached into his jacket. Naomi tensed. He pulled out a worn notebook. Set it on the table. I kept a journal. Every day for 5 years. Every choice I made. Every time I almost reverted. Every time I chose different. Micah opened it. Pages filled with handwriting. Dates. Decisions. Proof. He read one entry aloud. Day 847. Saw a man hit his son in a parking lot. Wanted to break his arm. Instead, called child services. Stayed until they arrived. This is harder than violence. But Micah was right, it matters more. Micah closed the journal. Handed it back. Why come back? Because you gave me 3 days to prove I'd changed. It took 5 years. I wanted you to know I finally passed. And if we say we don't want you here? Then I respect that, like I should have from the beginning. Micah looked at his mother. Some silent conversation passed between them. Then Micah pulled out a chair. Sat down. Tell me about construction, he said. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But possibility. An hour later, Dae-Yun stood to leave. Thank you, he said. For listening. Will we see you again? Micah asked. Only if you want to. Micah considered. Maybe. I'll think about it. Dae-Yun nodded. Started for the door. Wait, Naomi said. He turned. There's a community center. Tuesday nights. They teach kids self-defense. Not violence, protection. They need volunteers. You think I should? I think teaching kids to protect themselves without becoming what they fear might be exactly what you need. Their eyes met. Held. I'll be there, he said. Then he left. Naomi watched through the window as he walked away. No guards. No power. No pretense. Just a man who'd spent 5 years becoming someone worthy of a second chance. That night, Micah asked the question. Do you think he's really changed? Naomi thought carefully. I think he's trying. And maybe that's all anyone can do. Is trying enough? I don't know yet. But I think we have time to find out. Micah nodded. Went back to his homework. Naomi looked out the window. At the quiet street. The peaceful town. At the life they'd built from nothing. And at the possibility, just the possibility, that some people could walk away from darkness and mean it. Not redemption. Not forgiveness. Just the long, hard work of becoming different. One day at a time. This story started with a boy who refused to be afraid and ended with a man who learned that true strength isn't power over others, it's power over yourself. If this story moved you, we need you to do 3 things. First, like this video if you believe people can change, or even if you're not sure but you want to believe. Second, subscribe to Tales by Wave because Micah's story isn't over. The boy who taught a monster to be human is growing up, and the world needs more people like him. Third, comment below and tell us what's one thing you will do differently tomorrow because of this story, because we read every comment and your answer might inspire someone else. And if you made it all the way here, share this. Someone in your life needs to hear that change is possible, that courage comes in all sizes, that it's never too late to choose differently. This is Tales by Wave, where every story leaves a lesson and every lesson changes lives. See you in the next.